All right, the competitive market is back, and oftentimes working with buyers can be extremely challenging. We have to show more homes, write more offers, deal with more multiple offer situations, deal with listing agents that will not respond to us other than text, deal with heartbreak at the altar, so to speak, where the buyers put their best foot forward and are really struggling to put the right winning offer and getting into the home rather than having to go over and over and again. There were agents that left the business in 2020 and 2021. It was one of the most challenging times in history to sell real estate, one of the best, but also one of the challenging. I sold 88 homes, and about 75% of those clients were buyers. This is my exact formula I use from the start all the way to the finish to get more offers accepted, how I spoke to the listing agent to get their attention, how I got the buyers to understand the strategies to make the right offer, how I helped them realize that they didn't want to chase the market up. I give it all to you just to make sure that you guys can show less property, win more for your clients, and ultimately get a phenomenal year in the books and grow your business. All good. I was like just enjoying it for a moment, and I'm like, I bet she doesn't realize that
No,
this is.
I scrolled to the side twice and it said your microphone is muted. Let me mute it again.
Welcome, everybody. What's today? Today's hump day. Happy hump day. That's one of my favorite commercials of all time. The Geico Camel commercial makes me smile every time I think about it. And we're going to get into, we have the youngest agents. Yeah, we're bringing them up early, raising them right. Welcome to the chaotic life of being in real estate. So my name is Josh Pono. For those of you who don't know, I am a office owner out in San Diego, and I also am an area rep. So I have been tasked to launch 25 offices. I started with my first one out here in San Diego. Our specialty, or my specialty, is lead generation, sales conversations. For the first 8 years before I was actually selling real estate, I worked at Boomtown, Conversion, Agent Jet, Inside Real Estate, KV Core. I worked primarily with helping agents use digital marketing, generating leads, converting the leads into sales. And after about 8 years, I got extremely tired of, no offense to everybody that is in this meeting, but I got extremely tired of helping agents generate leads. And I was like, I'm tired of telling people how to do stuff. I got to go do it for myself. And so I started out my business in San Diego. And I thought I knew everything, and I knew a lot about a lot and a very, very little about actually being a realtor. My first year was one of the most challenging years in my entire career. I did end up selling 33 homes in my first year, and 99% of it was lead generation because my sphere of influence, they knew me as kind of a knucklehead. I was a young kid. I was 24 years old, and everybody that, when I first started selling websites and stuff. And so all my friends, all my sphere of influence, they didn't trust me to help them buy and sell. So I had to do it all through internet advertising. I had to do it all through lead generation, and primarily with cancel and expires and Zillow leads and Google leads and internet leads and Facebook and Craigslist for anybody who used to do Craigslist lead generation. I did that for the last 6 years before opening up my own office, and I've sold almost just like, I haven't counted recently, but it's around 200 homes in the first 6 years of real estate. 2020 and 2021, and the first quarter of 2022, it was over 100, being 49 in 2020, and about 75% of those were buyers. And I was primarily focusing on listings, but when the pandemic hit, everybody knows, listings were hard to come by, and I was just riding the wave. And so the stuff that I'm going to talk to you guys about today, ladies and gentlemen, is tricks that I've used to get my offers accepted at a very, very high rate. It's the number one thing I'm training the agents in the office in. And never, ever in a million years, when I was selling websites to real estate agents, did I think that skill set of being able to build rapport with agents, being able to understand agents, being able to get their attention would ever translate to real estate. And it served me extremely well, and it's working well in our market in San Diego. It's one of the most competitive markets, and we have very, 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 very little inventory. So I'm going to walk you through a system, and there's, like baking a cake, there's not just one thing that you need to do really well to have a awesome cake, you need a recipe of things. And so this is kind of my go-to formula. And it all begins with starting phenomenal expectations with buyers. And what I mean by that is I follow a very, very specific process. So from the moment somebody says, you know, hey, I want to talk about real estate, before I start talking about marketing and whatnot, I always ask, are you looking to learn more about buying or selling, right? I want to categorize and get into the right lane. The second thing that I'll do is I'll say, hey, now I want to cover a lot in an hour. And so I'm gonna slow down. Anybody that has questions, just stop and like raise your hand or throw it out. I notice that sometimes people feel like, oh, I don't want to take them off rhythm. I've been distracted a million times over, and there's not a question that you're going to ask me that we haven't handled. So just throw it out there. I want everybody to get as much value from this as possible. But buyer consultations are extremely important. If I'm dealing with an internet lead, or if I'm dealing with somebody that I don't know, my goal is to set a buyer consultation with them through delivering value. Oftentimes, if you're working with somebody who doesn't know you yet, doesn't trust you yet, and you ask them, you know, hey, would you like to meet for a cup of coffee? You've gone from nice to meet you to let's get married, right? And so you need to build value, you need to showcase expertise, you need to build rapport, and then you need to find some sort of pain, some sort of want, some sort of desire within the client, and align your values with what they're looking for, as if God made you for them as their representation for buying a home. And usually the way that I will close for that appointment is I will take 1, 2, 3 of their hot buttons, and I will form it into a question that can pretty much only be answered as yes. And so the way that looks in real practice is, you know, hey, Nadia, it sounds to me like you're looking for somebody that can be an expert in the real estate market to help you make the best decisions. It sounds like you're looking for somebody that's going to be aggressive on your behalf because you do not want to overpay for the property. And most importantly, you're looking for somebody that's not going to push you, but allow you to have a very, very smooth and peaceful and enjoyable process while you find the best home at the best price. If I could show you a way to do that with a strategy in 15 minutes over coffee or a beer or a soda, would that be of value to you? Right? So I take their hot buttons, I ask them a couple questions, and then I formulate it into a, hey, if I could show you how to do that in 15 minutes, would you have a cup of coffee with me? And by highlighting what they want into the way that I've got the answers for them, I can help them do that. And I listen to what they want. More often than not, when you're talking to the buyers, you're like, yeah, that would be of value. Fantastic. Let me grab my calendar. You know, we can do it via Zoom. We can do it via in person, whatever you want. Okay. Now, if it's a referral or a past client or somebody that, you know, it's more of just kind of a formality of, hey, let's get together and let's talk about your goals. Let's talk about what you want out of it. During the buyer consultation, I have a very specific flow that I go down. Okay. When I sit down, you know, I build rapport, ask them how their day is going, you know, just to warm up the conversation, get the energy up. There's a big misunderstanding, in my opinion, of mirroring. I don't want to mirror their exact energy. I want to be a little bit higher. Energy is infectious. Positivity is infectious. And I want to really come in with this is an exciting time. You're buying real estate. You're shopping for real estate. You're buying for real estate. You're building wealth. You're setting roots for your family. There's a million different reasons why owning real estate is incredible. I'm excited to be here. Let's talk about it. The first thing that I cover is I cover a little track record about me so that they know I'm credible. And they know that I have some experience in the area. And so just like when I started here saying, you know, hey, here's who I am, here's what I've done, this is my perspective, I come up with my elevator pitch for when I'm working with buyers. And by the way, it's not much different than I just gave you. Hey, my name is Josh Pono. I have worked in here. I have sold this many homes. This is what my experience is. This is what I do. And this is how it's going to benefit you. Okay. Once I give them my conversation about me and why I have the expertise to help them, I then stop each segment to make sure that I don't have any uncovered objections that I didn't handle. So, you know, I might talk to them about me for a couple minutes. And by the way, 2-3 minutes max, right? 2-3 minutes max. Hey, do you have any questions about me or any concerns about my experience that would cause you not to get a great perspective or not to get the best home on a deal? Is there anything that you'd like to share with me, or is there any questions about me? No. Fantastic. Let's move on. Then I do a market talk. Okay. I'd rather than brag on my chest and talk about my accolades, I'd rather talk about the market in an eloquent way that shows I have a real grasp of the information. Okay, because most people, they click on clickbait, they go here, they go there, they read some random story for attention, and they start to gather information. If I can show them that I know what happened in the 90s and the 2000s and 2010 and 20, and I can walk them through the steps of everything that's going on with the market, it builds credibility, in my opinion, of what's coming next. And so if I were to do a very short addition, I would say, hey, to know where we are, we need to know where we've been. And as you know, back in the late 90s, real estate was in the mid 90s, real estate was really bad in San Diego. And then in the 2000s, it took off, and man, did it take off, and everybody was buying, and we had a lot of funny stuff going on. And once the music stopped, the market came crashing down, and we dropped about 50%. And the bottom was 2012 in January. And then after that, we took off. Now 2019 hits, and everybody thinks that it's time for the market to go, because the average cycle from peak to peak in San Diego is 7 to 9 years. So we're on borrowed time. We're thinking the market's going to come down, and boom, the pandemic hits, and Newsom says he's shutting down the state. And we're looking around like, can he even do that? Is that even legal? What does he mean? House arrest, so to speak, right? And so hindsight 2020, we should have seen the market blasting off. They brought down interest rates into the 2s. They had no inventory because half of Californians didn't want the house, didn't want anybody in their house because they were scared to death of this thing. And half of them didn't care. And they were so upset that their kids were doing homeschooling next to their Zoom meeting at their house because they never wanted to have a big house because they loved to travel, which, by the way, was shut down. All of a sudden, inventory plummets, demand skyrockets, interest rates come down, and money is super cheap. Takes off to the moon. Okay. Come 2022, right around April, we peaked out, and everybody has decided that they're not buying. Inventory is going up. Interest rates are going up. Everything is starting to get much more expensive. And we do a 15% slide and drop about 15% value. And then comes November and December, where the numbers start to change a little bit. Like, I walk them through this, right? So that they now know where we're at. And then what I start to do is I start to go into what we're seeing and what we're experiencing. And here in San Diego, we've hit the bottom of this little portion of the market, and we're starting to come back up because we just don't have any inventory. And we've got a lot of demand from tech coming from LA and San Francisco, et cetera. There's over 1,000 high tech, high paying jobs available right now at all the major companies. And we walk them through all of that. So we do that to gain credibility. And then we say, hey, do you have any questions about the market, of what's happened, where we're at? Again, every time we get them through a little bit of a step, we confirm before I just go on to the next one. We confirm, do you have any questions about the market? Well, no, I'm just wondering. Here, let me check chat. I'm just wondering whether or not. Okay. I'm just wondering whether or not we are a good fit to buy right now. Okay, great. Now let's segment. There's no questions about me. There's no questions about the market. Let's go ahead and transition into what your goals are, why you want to buy, what's important to you about it, what's your fears, what is the scenario that's been holding you back. In a perfect world, if you could wave a magic wand and you could have, everything at the perfect time, at the perfect price, in the perfect place, what would that look like? Okay, once we've got that situated, okay, by then we typically have a good understanding of what they want. And by the way, I do not go into how many bedroom. The buyer consultation, in my opinion, is not about, what kind of bedroom. I don't want to talk about how many bedroom or how many bath, or, they hate fireplaces, or, they really don't like pools, or they hate the maintenance. Like, I don't want to go into any of that, because none of it's typically relevant at this point, right? And I know everybody's here to how to get your offers accepted, but this process is exactly what the foundation needs to be. The next 40 or so minutes are going to be all about that. But stick with me on the fact that in order to do what I do at a high level, I have to spend extra time with them in the beginning. And I even use it against other agents that are competing against me. I say, hey, how many other agents have run out and said, let's go look at property before they've covered any of this? They're like, a lot. I'm like, great. And guess what happens? All your anxiety, all your anticipation, all your questions, instead of wondering whether or not the house is the perfect house for you in the moment of making an offer, they're so stressed out because they don't know what's going on. They don't understand the process that they actually start to have a panic attack. And sometimes they even let the perfect home go away because their agent didn't slow down. And I give them an analogy. I say, listen, do you have a fear of flying, or do you love flying? They're like, it's okay, or whatever. I said, look, I have a huge fear of flying. And I've done a massive amount of research on turbulence because it scares the heck out of me. You see the turbulence start happening, I start praying to say, God, put your hands under these wings, get me home to my babies. Imagine hopping on a plane for the first time and having massive amounts of turbulence and not knowing what it is. Okay. Whenever I have anxiety and a fear, I always look at the flight attendants because they're the experts. They're the ones who do it all the time. And when I see them calm and cool and collective, it settles me down. So during the process, you're going to have some turbulence and you're going to look at me and I'm going to be calm, cool, and collective because I've done this hundreds of times, and just know it's just a little bit of real estate turbulence. Don't worry, you're going to land. Right. And I use that as the example so that when these things come up and they're panicking, they're like, I'm nervous about this, I'm nervous about that. I'm like, yeah, turbulence is a little bit crazy, right? But don't worry, the anxiety, it's part of the commission. Let me handle that. You just chill. I take care of everything. So we set the expectations that we're not going to talk about the property. We're not going to do that because what if you go to the lender and he says you can't even afford X, Y, and Z? You can't have turnkey. You got to buy something that needs a little work because you don't have the budget for it. So the next step of the work is I'm going to get you to the preferred lender. And my preferred lender, we are on the same page, meaning, and I talk to the clients about this. This is the end. This is the end of the buyer consultation. It ends with something along the lines like this. Hey, I'm really excited that you're confident in me. I have a really good understanding of what your goals are. It seems like it would be a good fit. The next step before we start running out and looking at homes is let's get to know your numbers really well, because here's what a winning offer looks like. And I paint the picture of what kind of offer we're going to make before we even get there. And I'll say, listen, we're going to go through the process as it unfolds. It takes years and years and years to master the real estate conversation. So we're not going to talk about that today, but understand that there's 3 contingencies in every single deal in California. There's a loan contingency, an appraisal contingency, and a buyer investigation contingency. There's a 4th one if you're selling and you have to buy, but that's not applicable to you. What I'll tell them is a winning offer in California looks like a 9-day buyer investigation period, a waived appraisal contingency, and a waived loan contingency. And these are things that you can do without causing any additional risk or any additional cost, but you just have to be more prepared. So with that being said, we're going to get you a full underwriting approval. Okay. The full underwriting approval is critical because number 1, it makes sure that you can remove the loan contingency here. Number 2, it also showcases to the sellers and to the listing agent at the right time that you've done your homework and you're a better agent than most, because a lot of agents just get a pre-approval. They don't go through this process. And I'm going to use this in my conversations to build rapport with the listing agents here in a little bit. So when you talk to your lender, you let them know, hey, every single client I give you, I'm going to put them into a position to follow your lead. I'm going to set really great expectations. I need you to do a full underwriting approval. If your lender doesn't do it, get somebody different. Lenders are supposed to make our life easier, not tell us how they like to work their processes. They're an extension of us, in my opinion. And I treat my lender like the greatest guy in the world. I work hard. I refer him a lot of business, but there's a level of expectation that if you're going to work with me, you got to deliver amazing service to the clients. Otherwise, I don't know what we're talking about. So I send them to the next step and I set the expectation. Next, we're going to go to the lender. We're going to get full loan approval. And once we get full loan approval, once we know your numbers, once we know exactly what you qualify, exactly what your monthly payment is, exactly what the purchase price is, then we're going to have a dream property consultation where we'll spend 15 minutes, and I time block it because I don't want this thing going 45 or an hour. It's a waste of time. We'll take 15 minutes to go through your criteria. Then I will send you all the properties. Then we will go out on a tour. The first tour we're seeing everything. We're loading up the kids. We're getting the coffees. We're spending 4 or 5 hours and we're going to see everything. And we're going to do what I call a market blitz. The reason why we're going to do that is I want you contrasting and comparing. It's all about education. It's all about education. Now, maybe, just maybe, we see the perfect home that is like, we get lucky and we go out and we see it. But really, this is more about figuring out what you don't like than figuring out what you do like. Okay. And by the way, I use that as an anxiety reliever. Right? They're not going out to find their dream home. They're not going out to buy a home today. We're going out and having fun. And the first showings, I say, listen, this is all about getting to know me. This is me about watching your body language, watching how you guys interact together, watching what you love so that I can learn you better. So I can understand what your goals are. And by the way, after the first showings, the first 5, 6, 7 showings, you will now know how I understand the market. You will now know how I treat you. You'll now know how I communicate you to you. You'll have multiple meetings with me. You'll met the full team, the lender, everybody. You've gone through showings with me. You understand 100% what the Josh Pono service is like. At that point, you will make a quick decision. And 99.9% of the time, it's an easy one. But if you want to work with me after you've seen the full gamut of me and you trust me, you respect me, you find me valuable, then I'll facilitate the standard California buyer representation agreement. Okay, I'll go out and show some homes. I will give them, I don't ask for the buyer consultation sign, the buyer agreement signed before I go show them homes, because I want to make sure that I can legitimately say there's zero reason why, like, you've seen everything about me. Either you love me or you don't. And again, almost every single time, the only time I don't get that sign is when they have some ulterior motive, and then we go into objections and handling. But that's my exact process, so that by the time I've invested time with them, I've got them educated. I've got them understanding the process. They know what a winning offer is. I've alleviated the pressure during those first showings. Sometimes we find a perfect home. Sometimes we don't. But I play the odds. And what I mean by that is so many times agents will say, hey, we're going to go out, and if you see a property, we'll write an offer. Most of the time, even when they go to see those first set of homes, unless there's that perfect home, and we know usually when that perfect home is, I want to take all the pressure off, because it's a very low chance that I go show a buyer 3 homes and they buy one. So I might as well take all the pressure off and be like, I don't even care if, we're going to look at homes that you're not going to buy, just so that when the perfect one pops up, you can act on it with all the confidence in the world. For example, I knew I loved my wife, and I knew I had to marry my wife because I dated a lot of people that weren't a good fit for me. So that's what we're doing on the first group of showing. We're going and getting all the dating in the 20s out of the way, all the teenage love affairs. We're getting all that stuff out of the way. So when the real true love comes along, the slipper fits and we're ready to rock and roll, and we can do what we need to do. Do you guys have any questions about, I covered a 2-hour session in 20 minutes. Do you guys have any questions about that?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Can you provide, this is such good information, do you have like a roadmap or some sort of bullet point, talking point that kind of guides each client through that?
Working on it.
Okay.
I'll have the video uploaded to the YouTube channel, and I've got a YouTube channel where I do office trainings Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Everybody's invited if you want to come, and I'm building out all that content. That is going to be, I'm working on a system that takes an agent from 0 to 10 deals a year consistently, and that's part of it, but I'll have it, Kendra. So anybody else? Going once, going twice. All right. So once I've got the client there and once I've got the expectations, then it's all about going out and showing, and it takes away all the pressure to where we can just go out. I use a system rating every single time I show a showing, and I highlight what it is so that I can get them in the mindset, right? Because in order to get an offer accepted, we need to make sure, that, sorry, I got distracted. We need to make sure that, give me 1 second. Sorry, I got a random thing. All right. So going through this process, I need to make sure that they're in alignment with where they're at. and I need to make sure that they're on board with the plan. So what I'll do is I'll give them a rating system, and I'll say, hey, from 1 to 10, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love this property? And I give them the understanding of what that is. So a 10 is like, oh my gosh, this is my dream home. The moment I pulled up, the moment I saw it, I absolutely loved it. I don't care if I have to pay $15,000 over what it's worth. If I lose this home, I'll be depressed. That's a 10. And I say we rarely find a 10 because the 10 usually costs more money than we ever want to spend. Okay. The 10 very rarely comes around because of price. We usually can't afford the 10, but if we can, you let me know it's a 10. Anything less than a 6, we don't even talk about anymore. Like, we literally burn it out of our brains. We throw it away. It is gone. Okay. A 7 is like, I like it. It's nice, but I don't know if I've seen enough properties. I don't know if I've dated enough people to marry this one. I'm on the fence. Usually a 7 will fall off as soon as we start seeing. Now, what we do is we take the best property, we put that one in our brain, and we compare everything to that. So if we see an 8, and an 8's like, I really, really like it. I don't know if it's perfect for me. I think I want to make an offer, but if it starts getting crazy and competing, I don't know if I'll be willing to go through with it. We still write the offer on an 8 because an 8, if there's only one buyer and we can get it for a great deal, sometimes 8s become 9s. Okay. So if it's an 8, it fits the criteria. We could see ourselves living in there. And depending on the price, we may or may not love it. Then that's an 8. A 9 is like, I love it. I want to compete for it. I'm going after it. This one fits and we're going to go. And the reason why I set that up that way is so that at the end of every tour, I say, hey, what was this on a scale of 1 to 10? And I try to guess with them and have fun with them. I'm like, was it probably like a 7? And I usually try to guess a little bit lower. I want them to correct me, because I don't want to tell them to make an offer. I want them to say, this is a 7, this is an 8. I want to make an offer about this. Okay. I want to see them put some energy and effort, because I also don't want to tell listing agents that I got the best buyer in the world and they're on the fence and they're not going to do what it takes to compete. So if they get an 8 and they make an offer, then everything from that point on, I focus on that. Is this better than 123 Main Street? That was an 8. And I also ask them questions. If it's a 7 or if it's an 8, I say, hey, what would make it a 9? What would make it an 8? What would make it a 10? Why isn't it an 8? So the conversation comes around the rating skill. And then once we get to the rating, we say, great, then we know we're making an offer if it's an 8. All right, now the fun part begins. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes, yes, we will share the video. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes it is extremely difficult for us to get listing agents on the phone because it just is, right? I want to share something with you, because the first part about winning offers is you have to understand, just like we understand our buyers and our sellers, we have to understand the mindset of the person we're trying to sell. I'm trying to sell the listing agent that out of the 10 buyers, I've got the best listing. I've got the best buyer, I've got the best lender, and I'm at least top 3, meaning the combination is amazing, but we're the best team together, and we're the most prepared, and we're the most educated, we're the most non-emotional, we're the calmest, we're the coolest, we're the ones who want this the most. I know that the listing agent's recommendation typically goes a long way. And I also know that how the listing agent presents my offer is the way that the seller is going to perceive me, the buyer, the lender, etc. So the first sale that I need to make is I need to make the sale that I'm a cool agent to the listing agent. Okay, let me show you what an uncool agent is. The uncool agent calls them. They don't pick up, they go to voicemail, and the agent sends something back going, I can't talk right now, just text. And the uncool agent goes, and by the way, I've been the uncool agent. We've all been the uncool agent. So there's no judgment, there's no labels. It's just, let's be adults and let's just call it what it is. The uncool agent is like, I'm trying to make a deal. These guys don't have any time for me. They don't respect me. I got to call them back. I'm going to text them. I need to talk to you. If you go down that train, you're not going to win, because it's kind of like dating. Nobody wants that naggy, desperate person. We want somebody that's calm and cool and confident most of the time. Most of the time. So if the agent sends me to voicemail, the first thing that I always kind of smile. I worked on a team. It was a Gary Keller top 100, Brian Kane, really, really fantastic guy. Taught me, he's been selling 120 homes a year for 12, 15 years. He sold over 1,000 homes. He mentored me and on the transactions, and just really awesome guy. We used to have a listing manager, and she made a salary. She made like $50,000, $60,000 plus she made bonuses, and we'd have 6 or 7 listings sometimes come to the market in a week. Anytime we got more than 2 listings in a week launching, this lady would lose her mind in a competitive market, because it would go to market and we'd get like 30, 40, 50, 60 showing requests in 1 week. We'd have 10, 15, 20 offers. We had a full-time salaried employee that all her job was to do is to bring the listing to the market, organize the showings, and get us the offers organized as a listing agent. She put them in a spreadsheet. When you get 10 offers, you got to, as an agent, you got to present everything. You got to make sure you deliver it in the right fashion. So you got to create a spreadsheet. You got to showcase exactly what each offer is. You got to write, does it come with termite? Does it not? Does it have an appraisal contingency? Does it have a loan contingency? What's their pre-approval? What's the whole scenario, right? And you've got to make sure that you organize that. And agents, for the most part, never take into consideration their life. They think about it this way. I've got a buyer. I brought the buyer. I went and did it. I deserve attention. This is an opening line that I use with an agent, whether it's via text or whether it's via email or whatever it is. Okay. When I reach out to a listing agent and I know it's a competitive listing and I call them and they don't pick up the phone, I typically will say something along the lines like, hey, how's it going? Other than being the local real estate legend who's getting swarmed by offers, congratulations on this listing. You'll be closing a paycheck very soon. Or, hey, other than being the biggest real estate celebrity in all of the city, you got realtors hiding in the bushes coming after you at this point. I'm sure they're sending pigeon mail with their offers at this point, right? I build rapport with them and I let them know, because their business is literally imploding. They got this, and they're going on this roller coaster. They got this listing. They're all excited. They bring it to the market. They get bombarded with phone calls. Their personal plans are shot, because most agents don't have a salaried employee. And even if they do, they're still overwhelmed. So when they don't answer my phone, I just realize they're drinking from a fire hose. And they still are trying to manage their time. And then they got all these offers coming in, and you really got to go into that, like wrapping your arms around them and saying, hey, I've been there. I get it. Even if you haven't been there, we've been to a place where it's been overloaded, right? Or overwhelmed. And so I instantly go into building rapport with the agent. And by the way, I don't say I need to talk to you, because agents will do that to us. They'll say like, oh, well, I really need to talk to you. No, you don't. You want to talk to me because that's the way you like to do business. So what I typically will do if I'm not having an agent that's responding to me, the first question I always lead with, and I lead with this question because I can't find it out on the MLS. It's something they have to or should tell me. It's something that makes them a better agent. It's something that gets better results for their client, which is their ethical and their obligations, right? And what I ask is, what is the preferred timeline for their seller to move out? I don't ask them, why is your seller selling? That's a silly question. You're going to get a lot of, why is this sell? If your buyer asks that question and, hey, I'm just getting it for my buyer, just shelve your buyer, right? Help them, listen, we're not going to bug the captain with how much more turbulence he thinks there's going to be. The captain's like, I don't know, turbulence. Right. So same thing. We're not going to let our buyers become annoying flyers. Right. We're going to say, hey, no problem. I'll find that information out at the appropriate time. That doesn't matter when I'm writing an offer. Why are they selling? Because they want to move. Why are they selling? Because they want money. Yeah, but what specifically? That's a great question. I'll find out at the appropriate time. Okay. And by the way, before the buyers at the, that, hey, I want to make an offer. This is really, really, really crucial. I want to make an offer. What do you think it's going to sell for, Josh? What do you think I should offer? This is how I respond every single time. Great question. It all depends on a couple different pieces of information. It depends on how much competition there is, and it depends on what the comps say. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to reach out to the listing agent. I'm going to gather as many details as I can. I'm then going to review the comps and make sure we're all in alignment there. Make sure you're getting a great price. And then I'm going to take those two pieces of information and I'm going to run that through based on when they're accepting an offer. Okay. If they're presenting all offers on Monday or Tuesday, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, and this is Friday, and I have a conversation with the listing agent and I look at the comps and I base it on their current action, by Sunday, I need another conversation with them to see what the differences is from Friday to Sunday. And I want to get the most accurate information. So it sounds to me when they ask that question, so it sounds to me like this is an 8, a 9, or a 10, and we're going to be making an offer. Now we just need to make sure we come up with the right strategy. Is that correct? Yes, that's correct. Fantastic. Then sit tight, continue to think about this house. Let me do some due diligence and I'll get back to you. I do not want to tell them, oh, I think it's going to sell for 600. Because what if it goes for 625? Now I got to backtrack. So once I'm on the line with the agent, again, I say, hey, what's the perfect move out scenario for the client? That one they got to answer. And that one, I don't need to build rapport with them. Just text it to me. That's fine. Now, once they text me, I've got their attention. I immediately answer it. I'll put a client on hold if I'm with another client. I say, hey, hold on 1 second. I have to take care of something. I don't tell them what it is. I just put them on hold, because now that I've got the agent's attention, hey, what's the perfect move out scenario? Well, they will look for, they're looking for a quick close and they're looking for a 2-week lease back. Fantastic. Depending on the offer, they'll either pay for the lease back or they want free. Is there anybody else offering them a free lease back right now? It's always acknowledging them, complimenting them, and then asking another layering question. So an example of that would be, they want a 2-week close or a 3-week close or a 4-week close plus a lease back. Hey, that's fantastic. Just so you know, my buyers are fully underwritten. We could close in 14 days. And they're flexible on timing, so they can let them stay for 2 weeks. Other than best price, right? I don't say, so what are they looking for? I know what they're looking for. They're looking for the most amount of money with the least amount of contingencies. Again, that's a silly question, right? Like, what does the seller want? The seller wants a bag of cash with no contingencies and they want to get overpaid. That's what they want. So I say, hey, other than the best price. And by the way, just by highlighting this, it shows that I understand the process and they love people that get to the point. Other than best price, other than the fewest contingencies with the tightest timelines, is there anything else important that the seller really, really wants? Any items that don't convey? Okay, again, I go to any items that don't convey. Why? Because sometimes in the midst of the battle, in the midst of listing, we forget that the seller said to us like, hey, I want that chandelier. So I want to build up that listing agent. I want to put them in a position to win. And I want to say, and they might go, oh yeah, actually the chandelier doesn't convey. Again, acknowledge, compliment, ask another question and say, hey, fantastic. We don't even care about that chandelier. I'll make sure I put in the offer that the chandelier doesn't convey. When are you, and then I go into, when are you reviewing offers? Is there a designated time? Okay. Well, we're going to be reviewing on Monday. Fantastic. I'll make sure to get my offer to you early Monday morning. So that way you have the ability to put us in the spreadsheet, because I'm not going to be like a lot of agents that give you a timeline that if you say we're presenting at 5, I give you my offer at 4:57. You know how, like, I know there's a lot of agents here. Have you ever told a buyer, give us your offers by 5 o'clock and they give it to you at 4:58? Now you're pissed off. You're like, do you even know what you're doing? Now I have to stop. I have to postpone the meeting for a minute. I have to do some data entry. I have to review on it. I have to, like, if I'm meeting them at 5, I want everything organized by 4. And so I highlight that. Hey, I won't give you this at last second. I know how annoying and frustrating it is. By the way, I've sold XYZ homes. I know in this market, this is a good line to use. I know in this market, it's really, really, really important on the agent who you work with. I get it. I'll make sure that I present everything in there. You'll have proof of funds. You'll have full underwriting approval. You'll have fully executed contract. I'll make sure all the license numbers are in there. I'll make sure this thing is super clean so it requires 0 effort on your part to present it. On the other side, they're like, thank you. Thank you. Now, if they're engaging with me and they're loose-lipped, ready to sink some ships, I'll say, great. How many offers do you have currently? How many verbal offers? How many threats of offers? Okay, you're presenting at Monday at 5. Do you expect these sellers to do a multiple counter based on your experience? Do you expect them to do a multiple counter? Or do you expect them just to go with the highest and best? I gather as much information as I can. Do you like, what are your thoughts on escalation clauses? In California, we're allowed to have an escalation clause, which says, hey, we'll offer you $600, but we'll pay $25,000 more than anybody else up to $650. And by the way, if you do escalation clauses, never use a cap. Buyers want to put in a cap. It's not a good idea. So for example, I'll do $5,000 more than any other offer, but only up to $625. Don't do the 625 because it shows weakness. It shows that you only have a certain amount of money or you only value that property. Now the buyer will say, well, what if they come back and say, you got to do 645 because we got another offer at 640. Great. That's awesome because 1, that means you have their attention. 2, that means you get to see what the other offer is. So you're not left at the altar wondering why. And 3, you get to decide, you're in control. Do you want the home or not? But you get to see the other offer. It's like playing poker and then if you don't want it, you just say, no, thank you. I'm not signing. You're in complete control. Don't put the cap in. That'll open up the buyer's mind. They'll be like, oh, shoot, you're right. You don't have to sign it. You don't have to accept it because they have to be able to sell you. You wrote the offer at 600. They show you an offer at 640. They got to do an addendum to make it a fully executed contract saying that the purchase price is going to be 645 because they can't just have this imaginary made up number. And you get to decide. So you get to see the winning hand, and then you get to decide if you want to beat it by just a little bit. And that'll be your position. But ultimately, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you're in complete power. Putting a cap in it just shows your weakness. I want information. Okay, but you ask the listing agent, what do you think about escalation clauses? Because I can tell you for a fact, there's a lot of agents out there. They're like, it's cheating. It's funny though, because it's actually just a tool that guarantees your seller gets the most amount of money, which is our job. But anyway, I won't argue with you. No problem. Then I'm not going to present an escalation clause because if I present an escalation clause and the listing agent doesn't like it, then he's going to badmouth it like, hey, this other offers an escalation clause, which is cheating and unethical. And all of a sudden the seller who's never even heard of this stuff is like, oh, I hate that too. Oh, do you? Do you hate it now? I want to present the offer in a fashion that the listing agent loves, because if the listing agent loves it, she is going to go there and say, you know what, this offer is really clean. It's written exactly the way it should be. The agent's super smart, the blender, blah, 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 blah. Now, at some point during that initial round of information, the listing agent's going to lose patience, and I've asked them all the things that I need to, right? I want to know when they're presenting offers. I want to know that. I want to know what the preferred closing time is. I want to know what the hot buttons are for the seller. Is there anything they really, really want? At some point, I'm going to run out of stuff to say. And by the way, if I got a loose-lipped agent, I'll say, hey, and by the way, it's a corrective statement. Okay. Oftentimes agents want to be right. sometimes I want to be wrong because people have this initial reaction of correcting people that are wrong. So if I think this property is going to sell for 630 and it's getting close to the end, I'll say, I'd imagine you're at 655 now. They won't tell me what the price is, but sometimes they'll go, oh no, we're not that high. They just can't help it. So I use a fake number on the high side to get a reading on what they're doing. Now, sometimes the agent will ignore that because some agents will not tell you that information. You will be surprised when you ask that stuff, how quickly people will give you more information. And if they're like, yep, pretty close. If they come in short, quick there, then I know, okay, now I know where I got to be. Okay, so now I've gathered all that information. Now I go to I review the comps to make sure it's in alignment. Okay, I sit down with the buyer and or I call the buyer and I say, hey, here's all the information. Here's how we want to structure it. Here's how we can do that. And they'll say, great, Josh, what do you need to offer? I say, that's a really good question. Now, if it's a Friday or a Saturday and they're asking me this and they're not presenting till Monday, I say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get all the terms right. We're going to get the draft of the offer done, but we're not going to pick price yet. Why not? Well, if I give them this offer right now, and I know they're going to wait till Monday and 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 more offers come in, then the strategy's got to completely change because it's old information. So I'm going to send you the offer. We're going to talk about the 7-day buyer investigation, no appraisal, no loan, 21-day close with a 7-day lease back. I'm going to send that to you for you to review. I'm going to send that to you for your review. I want you to review it now. And then on Sunday night or Monday morning, when I get the last round of information, then we'll pick the price and continue to think about whether or not you want this house. I don't want to have them trying to review a 14-page document within an hour because we all know, and then I got to get it late and then I got to submit it. It's a horrible experience from them. They're asking me questions. Here's the draft, everything except for price. Here's a draft. Talk to the lender about your numbers. Make sure you know the monthly payment. Get all that stuff squared away. Talk to them about what the current interest rate is. Talk to them about the monthly payment. Get all that stuff done. Figure out we're going to figure out price later. Then I got 3 days, 2 days to review, to handle any random questions, and there's no pressure on them. It's a better customer service experience. So, by the way I cap this off, and by the way, agents will probably stop talking to you at this point. You've gotten their information. Here's how you get them. Here's how you find out whether or not they're full of it or whether or not they got so much action. You finish the conversation. Hey, thank you so much for all the information. I know how extremely busy you are. I wouldn't be on the phone I wouldn't be talking to you right now unless my buyers absolutely were loving this property and committed to this property. You are going to get a phenomenal, almost don't even need to counter, maybe except for escrow and title type of offer. It's going to have your full underwriting approval. It's going to have your proof of funds. It's going to be fully executed. I'm going to have all your it's like, it's going to be dialed in. You're going to have that very soon. That's on Friday or Saturday. Then I ghost them for a while. And I tell the buyer, sit tight. Why? Because if on Sunday night, they start texting me, hey, Josh, I haven't seen that offer, I know that they don't have a full house in the hand. I know, because guess what? When I got 10 offers and 6 of them are phenomenal, I don't remember the agent that was smooth talking me on Friday. I most certainly don't have the time to call them. I'm like, if they wanted it, they'd be here. But I'll tell you, if I got 2, 3 kind of weak offers, where's Josh with his offer? He said he was getting me this phenomenal offer. Where's he at? So then I wait. Now, by the way, I don't wait until Monday at 5, right? I wait Saturday. I wait Sunday. Monday morning, if they text me, ding, 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 ding. Now, if they text me, now I call them, right? I flipped the power. Now I call them. Hey, what's going on? Honestly, we were just waiting for the lender to give them the rate on Monday morning. So that way we knew 1000% there was no concerns. Because as a listing agent, I don't want a buyer giving me an offer that they're confident on Friday night, and then the rates change, and then we got drama. Opening escrow with us, Mr. and Mrs. Listing Agent, is just a formality of a closing. which is what you want, isn't it? Yeah, I do. That's the only reason why I haven't submitted the offer. I wanted to make sure. Oh, thank you so much for that, Josh. You're very, very welcome. This will be the smoothest escrow of your life. Oh, real quick. You said you had 3 other verbals coming in. Did they come in? Gotcha. Has the pricing gone up? Last time we talked about this thing selling for $655, you said not there yet. How are we looking now? Okay. And then I get round 2 of information and I go through the same process of like the track record. Well, Josh, we have this one person that said they're going to bring in a phenomenal offer, and that's the last one other than yours that we're waiting for. Phenomenal. When did they see the home? I layer the question. Phenomenal. When they see the home? Oh, they saw it Thursday. Wow. It took them four days to get you this phenomenal offer. Okay. So obviously they're not extremely motivated. Gotcha. I'm not worried about them at all. Okay. Then based on my assessment. So Tracy, you brought this up. Hey, this sounds great, but oftentimes they take the offer. So this is a really, really great point. So after I talk to the agent and they say they're taking they say they're not meeting until Monday. They're not meeting till Monday. I do ask them the question, hey, if we got you something so incredible, so amazing that it blew their minds, do you think there's any possibility that they would accept an offer now? Do we have the ability to just come in and blow your guys' mind and take this property out? And depending on that statement. Now, I also talk to the buyers about that. I say, listen, I think there's a very, very small chance. This is a really, really good point, Tracy. I think there's a really small chance that if we write an offer, we can steal it, but it's going to have to be something incredible. The property's listed at 600. They're not going to jump unless we get them around 650. And I wait for my buyer. Buyer like, well, I don't want to go to 650. Got you, because we have 2 strategies. Option A, we can play what I just explained to everybody. Or option B, we can submit a phenomenally strong offer right now and hope to get them to pull. There's pros and cons to each side. The pro of writing the offer right now and submitting it, there's a very small chance that if we go in super strong. Now, if we go in at 650, no contingencies, no appraisal, only the buyer investigation contingency for home inspection. If we go in with that, there's a chance we get it accepted, but there's also a chance that they leverage us from here on out and they use you as leverage. So are you willing to go in at 650, 675 with the way we were talking? And the buyer says, yeah, then I say, okay, great, let's do it. But if they say no, then I say, okay, great. So then option B, which is the scenario that I just ran through, it sounds great. Understand there's a small chance that you lose out. But if you lose out before that meeting, you were going to lose out anyway, because they're going to come in with something so strong and something so amazing that you're going to miss out on. I do. That's one of the things that we do spend time talking to the agent about. And I do educate the buyer that, hey, if you're not at a 10 and you're at an 8 or a 9 and you're thinking about making an offer as an 8 or a 9 and a 10 comes in and they're cash, you're going to lose, but you lose the 10s a lot. And that one is a delicate one because you really have to go with your gut instinct. Because I most certainly don't want it. By the way, I leverage the heck out of people when they make offers, right? Agent will say, hey, if we submit you a phenomenal offer, is there a chance we get it accepted? You know, I'm not the decision maker, Mr. Buyer's agent. I'm not the decision maker. If you submit something really strong, I'll present it. I do know the seller wants to take the offer. I do know they're motivated to sell. I do know they want a no BS type of offer. But if you're going to come in and you want us to take it off the market because of all this action I've got going on, you really need to come in strong. They come in strong and I'm like, uh-oh, sorry, there's other people. And now you're the benchmark. So you got to watch out for that because that is something that takes skill and experience. You've got to feel that out. But in our market, because of the demand, unless there's something that's just blowing them out of the water, it usually will go to the end. And if it doesn't go to the end and the client doesn't have an 8 or a 9, they would have lost anyway. So when you get down to the end, and you get that second round of information, Yeah, I'll put that together, Ed. I need to put it together for that as well. You're welcome. So it all comes down to positioning this correctly so that as you get down to the end, you get the most relevant information. And I use, by the way, I use all this information against other agents when I'm competing on with like a buyer. And I'll tell people flat out, like, if you're getting left at the altar, like, oh, we missed out on the houses, you know, hey, I've been looking for a property. I made 4 or 5 offers. Great. When did you know you lost? When did you know you lost? Well, we found out after the listing presentation meeting. I'm like, you got left at the altar and you didn't know until after they ran away? What do you mean? I know because I get that round of information. Hey, what's going on? Yeah, Josh, now we're over 675, right? I've already built rapport. I've already got their information. Now they're more forthcoming with me. And then I go to my buyer and I'm like, hey, they're probably at 665, 670. We got to be at 680 if we want a great shot. We got to be at 665 if we want a good shot. Anything less than 665, I'm not a magician. I can't get people to take less than $25,000 because everybody's got a phenomenal offer. And by the way, sometimes buyers will say this, and this is a huge point. Sometimes buyers will say, well, I don't want to take my best shot because I want to leave some time I want to save some ammunition for round 2. We'll just wait till they counter. Okay. I appreciate where you're coming from. Let me explain something to you. If you list for 600 and you're hoping for 600, 610, 615, and you get 2 buyers, there's 8 buyers that make an offer, and you get 2 buyers that are at 655 and 660, and they all have no loan. They all have no appraisal. They all have that. Why would you talk to anybody else who started at 625? To Ryan. Wait till I talk to Ryan about his 1-hour meetings on Zoom. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I actually have a meeting with Ryan Finch right after this, and I'm gonna be like, what's up, man? Greatest franchise in history. We can't get an hour and 5-minute long Zoom. We got to relog in. Really? I'm gonna mess with him a little bit. We give everybody a chance to log in. I explained to the buyers that oftentimes you have to take your best shot. You have to take your best shot. And they'll oftentimes say, well, Josh, what if I take my best shot and they come back and ask for $5,000 more? Yeah. And I was like, oh, I was just about a mic drop. Momentum gone. They'll say, well, Josh, I'm nervous that if I give them my best shot, they'll come back and ask for 5K more. And here's the last thing I'm going to talk about. I don't know where I got this from. I just kind of coined it. And I guess I got it from the Millionaire Real Estate. I'm sorry, the Shift book by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, Shifting Market, right? How to Dominate It, or whatever the title is. I've studied that book a couple of times. They talk about chasing the market down, right? They talk about, in the crash, people were chasing the market down. They would start high and then they would just keep reducing. And I'll tell buyers, listen, you don't want to chase the market up. In a market like this, here's what happens. And everybody, this is a very, very powerful conversation. This is the number one thing. Well, I don't know about the number one. I'm being a typical salesperson that's just labeling stuff number one. But this is one of the things that has absolutely helped me get buyers to understand where they're at. Okay, I've been there where it's so frustrating where they lose out by 5,000. Then you go to the next one, they lose out by 5,000. Then they go to the next one, they lose out by 5,000. They're pissed off, they're frustrated, they're paying more money, blah, 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 blah. I'll tell them, listen, I understand you're nervous about putting in your best offer, and I understand you're worried it's not enough, and maybe the seller comes back and asks you for 5,000 more. There's a few things. One, you don't want to chase the market up, meaning this house, you like this type of house, meaning the next one that pops up in 2-3 weeks, you're going to want to go after that. There's 10 buyers. How many people get to live in this home? Well, 1. Great. So there's 9 other buyers. Did they change? Did they say they're moving to Mexico? They say they're getting out of the world. They're not going to buy real estate anymore? Or do those 9 buyers still need a house? Great. So the next one comes up in 2 or 3 weeks, and everybody's upset because they now know they lost when they made an offer of 650, 655, 645. Now they've got FOMO. Now they're upset. And by the way, the next one comes out at 675 because this seller goes, hey, that seller got 665. I can get 670 because there's 9 other buyers. And then we rinse and repeat. So you go to war multiple times with these buyers over and again, except now everybody's getting more emotional. They're getting more desperate. And that means they're paying more money. You do not want to chase the market up. So if they do come back and say, you know what, your offer is the number one offer and we'll give it to you if you give us 5,000 more, then one, back to the escalation clause, no cap analogy, then one, great, you're now in control and you can say yes or no. And two, if you say yes, the house is yours and then you become the leverage. And the next seller, instead of them asking you for more money, they're now working for you, building you more money because they're going to go get you equity in the next couple of weeks. Let's do the right thing and take our best shot. If we miss, if we took our best shot and we miss, we can walk away knowing that we didn't get left at the altar. We said kids were really important to us and they said they never want to have kids. Well, we can move on with that. We can realize that we did the right thing for us. It's when you don't have any answers that the emotional pain keeps going on. You don't want to chase the market up. Because I promise you in 3 or 4 months, you're going to, instead of having $30,000, $40,000 in equity or 10,000, whatever your market is, right? You can see the trajectory. Instead of having equity, you're going to be paying more money for the property and you're going to be pissed off because you could have just secured it for $5,000, which is $25 a month. Drink less Starbucks. Now, by the way, that's the bullet point directly to the professionals. There's a lot more understanding and feeling and saying, hey, I appreciate this. There's a lot more of that, but I'm crunching everything in. Any questions? Otherwise, I will build up. So here's one thing that you guys can do real quick. I put all of our training videos and stuff inside of our YouTube channel. And I will, you guys can get that stuff. Let me get the video for a second. Let me get the link. Hey, what's going on? You guys can get the link here. All the videos, we've got another 15 or 20 being uploaded. It's all different topics like that. If you guys go there, you guys can get that information. Ed, I will get you a list of the questions by like Monday of next week, probably sooner. I'm just giving myself a little bit of time. And was there anything else anybody? Kendra, you had asked if I could kind of bullet point the outline. I'll get that stuff. And I'll do a video with it too, and I'll upload it there, but I'll get this video uploaded to YouTube. If you guys subscribe, you guys will get alerts when we get there. You're welcome. You're welcome. Have a phenomenal day. Catch up with you guys soon. Thanks for attending. I appreciate everybody. Hope this helps.